what lessons are there to be drawn from these guys? And like, are there any examples in your own life that you could share about like how maybe the mustard journey even, like what role has this faith and belief played in the journey of mustard to this point over the last, 10 years? All right, we're back again.
Yeah,
Episode 2.
yeah. What are we talking about?
What are we discussing today?
So, like, I think it was great that we broke down Whole Story's King. I've been speaking to some people in, who we share offices with. What is it we're doing? We're storytelling, right? We're storytelling. And fine, what stories are we telling? And it goes back to, in essence, key line. One of the key lines are essentially the key line in our belief, right? We believe that history's biggest undertakings were not built on products or markets, but they were built on essentially the passion and the belief of individuals. And in essence, we're trying to find that passion, the people who have those passions, those beliefs, and we want to tell the ongoing story of them going towards an undertaking. And that undertaking can be a venture, a startup, and the story will be communicated through a brand. So that's why we create venture brands. But at times, if we don't have that idea at that point, but we do have that person with that belief and the passion, then it could be long form content, which is what we're building up towards. So in essence, there's two parts that I kind of want us to talk about. One we'll talk about today, I think, the other another day. But it's that word passion and that word belief. And I want us to talk about belief. I think we're talking about belief. But that word, I remember speaking to Funsho, our audience lead, and I actually wanted to use the word faith, which he felt very uncomfortable with. The connotations, controversial, the connotations. Normally people think about, when you hear about faith, it's normally a looking towards the divine, towards God. But in essence, I actually think that the word belief, we say, I don't want to say the word's cliche, but it is too watered down for what I think is actually happening with the biggest figures. And I don't want to just go straight to Alexander the Great, but with the figures who are throwing away, let's land it in a more normal scenario. People who are throwing away the day job, throwing away the guaranteed salary or seemingly guaranteed salary, who are then going and embarking on these things that, frankly, it's a blank sheet of paper. There's no guarantee of an actual outcome.
Yeah.
The only thing you can guarantee is effort, which you have to guarantee.
Effort and pain.
Effort and pain. But actually, in reality, as opposed to what we're told, which is if you put in the hard work, you will get something. Now that can work in a large organization, but in entrepreneurship, you can't put in 10 years of work and then stop and say, I deserved to be successful, because it just doesn't work like that. You could put 10 years of work in the wrong direction. Now, what you will be guaranteed is, just as the kind of famous, I don't know if it's apocryphal or otherwise, but the quote from Thomas Edison, you'll be guaranteed that you will find a way to not do the thing that you want to do. And that's, let me be very clear, that is a win. I think maybe we should reframe how we talk about it. That is a win, right? But there's no guarantee that you are, following on with Thomas Edison, going to make the light bulb.
Yeah.
Right? So faith is the word I'm using because it is that stronger thing. It's a thing that actually, I think these individuals, lay entrepreneurs as well, they have that, and I think everyone has that, but the difference is they're going to take action on it. And it's funny you say pain, because the reason why I want to talk about passion another time is even the word passion, it actually means suffering. It doesn't mean fun. So we talk about passion of the Christ, for example. It actually means suffering. But we've almost, again, similar to the faith and belief, we've kind of neutered the word. We've kind of, made it nice for everyday audiences to mean it's enthusiasm and love for what do you call it? So
Yeah.
So faith.
Belief implies that it's based on some sort of rational evidence. That's usually, you use the word, people don't speak of, you believe in science or you don't, right? I don't think people talk about having faith in science necessarily, right? And so what I'm saying is with belief, usually it's sort of, look, I believe this because the evidence suggests that this is going to be true. In entrepreneurship, for instance, well, I believe if I do these things, then X, Y, and Z will happen, right? But man, as we've seen, there's so many times when you have to go, when the evidence in front of you is not pointing to any kind of successful outcome necessarily, or you don't see a particular path into how you're going to get from here to there. And I think belief is good, but I think faith is something a little bit different. It has a different quality. It's like it exists despite the evidence to the contrary. Right?
So interestingly, and this is the reason why I want to use the word faith, because I think
A leap of faith.
So I don't think we understand what the word faith means. Leap of faith is basically, so it's good that you said leap of faith, because that is a modifier that's been put on the word faith to basically mean literally a leap of faith, right? So faith is, and we get dictionary, etc. Faith is actually, so there's two things. We can go faith is in faith, normally that there's a connotation where it talks about a divinity, right? But then also we do obviously use faith in common parlance as well. But faith is actually a belief because of the evidence.
Because of the
Evidence.
right.
Now, and this is the thing where I talk about entrepreneurship, there was a belief that we were doing it wrong, generally speaking. And that belief was, hey, there's something in brand, there's something in communication. I remember when I was a young kid, and he's probably I can see it almost accompanying my son, even though he's quite young. I had a series of anticlimaxes. Every Christmas was an anticlimax, because I would see an advert, right? Or I would actually, it wasn't even really an advert. I would see something that I liked when I was much younger. So we're talking about 4, 5, 6. Playmobil was my thing. As I got a bit older, Nintendos, then eventually PlayStations, etc. But when I didn't have it, I built up something in my mind. When I built that thing up in my mind, I would almost envisage what it would be like to play it. And I generally actually remember going, if I had this thing, my life would be different. Shock, horror, I got it. My life wasn't different.
Sega Mega Drive.
Segment. There you go.
That's it for me.
Life wasn't different, right?
It was for a while.
Well, I mean, it was different, but it was not like, it's not, but there's that thing of will my life be complete kind of thing, right? But my point is, there were these, I guess, stories, narratives I made in my mind of such things, and they're not too dissimilar to stories and narratives that we will make in our mind about, positive and negative about a person, right? Oh my gosh, that first date, it was great. I bet she's and all these other things that come on. And so I had this strong belief that very powerful things can be communicated through stories. But then everyone else, pretty much as I came out of university, spoke to me and said, okay, great, look, concept, blah, 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 too intellectual. What's the product? What's the USP? Great, you're doing engineering, let's do this and that, right? I had that faith based on evidence, but the question is, do you agree with that evidence? Or can you see that evidence, right? Another example, right? I said this to a friend of mine who actually kind of said the same thing. And it was like, so, oh, faith, leap of faith. I said, your mother, because he was a bright guy. I said, your mother at a young age probably said, I have faith that you're going to turn out in, he's going to become something, right? Regardless of where he was born and what's going on. And other people said, oh, you're a mother. What else are you going to say, right? Yeah. Of course he's going to become something. No. I have faith he's going to become something really great. Now, she may have said to some people, but look, I've been around him. I see what he does. I see how, he's not my first son. I see the differences, and I see what he calls it. I have faith in that. I may not agree with that evidence. I may see that evidence and go, I don't think that logically leads to that, or that leads to that. But there's evidence, right? So what I think the entrepreneurs have, what I think that the biggest people in history, what they have is a faith that normally as human beings at times in our cohorts we forget. And there's a nuance or there's something that they see. And at times it's not as super clear. It might be, it's there, it's still objective, but they felt it subjectively to some degree. But they see it and they have essentially the balls at that point to follow it and to go against what has now become conventional wisdom, right? Which says, no, this is the way the world works, if that makes sense.
And so you talked about, because we've been going back and forth on, we can pick historical figures, we can pick 100%. Athletes, we can pick famous entrepreneurs, right? So Alexander the Great, Chinua Achebe, Jobs, Jordan, whoever. But what is this, like, that's quite grand, and it's useful to say, hey, remember this is important, and it's inspirational to some extent. But why does that matter for somebody who isn't necessarily yet operating at that level and has like extremely bread and butter, day to day, in the grind, in the lab kind of concerns and objectives, right? So like faith, why sit down and talk about faith for an hour in this context?
Well, I think I'm going to flip the question around, and I'm going to say, like, I think every single one of those people you spoke of, and every other person anyone can think of, had bread and butter realities. I think the further back you go, the more bread and butter.
The bread and buttier.
Bread, exactly. The more bread and butter it was, right? So the thing is, right? I think. Look, when we were doing Reframe, we spoke about how you just said, "Hey, I'm gonna up sticks and leave, professional services." We can always justify why we need a six-figure salary.
Dude, let me tell you about this. So this is when I think of, in my interpretation of this word faith and how it can affect your life in the career or business sense, right? It's for me, it is sometimes a belief in something irrespective of other people's interpretations of the evidence, right?
Yes, exactly.
So to square the circle. So I'm sitting in Namibia, junior trainee lawyer, and I was like, I like this law thing, but at some point I want to work globally. I want to work on Africa stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be a lawyer necessarily, but I want to use law and then work on current affairs and business and international transactions. I didn't even have the vocabulary to determine what I would do.
Exactly.
But I kind of I know the things I want it to include. Right? Then I had this idea of, you're sitting in a tiny town, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, you never know. At some point, some client could come in, and they might be from London or New York or Toronto or wherever. And if I just keep taking those sort of clients on, you never know.
Yeah.
Maybe something good would happen.
Yeah.
Then I started believing that would happen at some point, right?
Okay. Something happened, right?
It did eventually.
Okay.
But because I had this faith that, hey, this is possible, plausible, and actually I think it's probably going to happen at some point. I think something fine-tuned in my mind, right? So I started seeing tiny little imperceptible opportunities. And when something came up, I pounced on it.
Okay.
So what's the point of that story? I went from sitting in a law office in Namibia within 6 months, effectively, to being in London during the global financial crisis, being brought over here with a job, right? People around me were like, so you're going where? It's like, London. Ever lived there? Nah.
Get your head
Went
out
there
the
once
clouds,
when I was
brother.
9 years old.
Get your head out the clouds, brother. You know?
Suddenly I was there, right?
Yeah.
Here's the difference was this. It wasn't because I'm some sort of genius, right?
Exactly.
It was because I looked at the same facts.
Yeah.
Global financial crisis. You're never going to get a visa. What are you talking about? You can't even name the industry you're going to, let alone the company that's going to hire you.
100%.
But I was like, look, I'm going to move a little bit differently
Yeah.
to you over the next half an hour, the next day, the next week, and then it compounds. And suddenly I'm seeing something you could have seen, but you didn't have the faith and the outcome.
Yeah.
So I think that's why, for me, it's a very practical and logical thing. If you're in entrepreneurship, or if you're trying to accomplish anything that is requires you to be something better than you are currently.
Yeah.
If you do that without having that belief and that faith,
Yeah.
it's going to make tiny little differences, and it's far less likely that you get there. Whereas if you do have that, you just move differently.
Yeah.
And it may not happen the exact way you think it would happen, but either that will happen or something equally or more evolutionary towards whatever goal that you have. So actually, what other people might think is an unreasonable faith in an outcome, it might be actually way more logical to have that than to sit there without it.
It's and I love you bring it up, and there's two things I want to say. One, I want to go on analogy, but the other thing is in terms of that, you start noticing something. You know, somebody told me this. There's an effect. It begins with S. Somebody's going to think about it and hopefully put it in the comments or something like that. But in essence, you know, when somebody just got a Mercedes-Benz, and all of a sudden you see Mercedes-Benz everywhere, right? And it's not necessarily in that respect. And this is the thing, back to what you're saying. It's not that they weren't there before, is that you weren't noticing it.
Exactly.
But now you are, because it's become you've made it your context, right? Or in that case, it's become your context. Oh, Mercedes-Benz, Mercedes, and you're thinking, right? Now, there's a statement that says to have the faith of a child, right? It's in the Bible. I've got 2 kids, as you know. Currently, one is 3, another is 9 months, coming to 10. You may have heard that he said that. So a baby comes out with not atrophied muscles, but like no muscles, right? So that's different. Can't talk, can't walk, can't do anything else.
Can't lift.
Can't lift. Definitely can't lift, right? In essence, they look at you, even though you are this, I mean, you may as well be Godzilla, some giant compared to them. They look at you and they go, wow, you put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
And I believe I can do that. And bro, they have no right. And you go, oh, but they're a baby. No, bro, they have no right.
Yeah.
They do not have muscles. Their joints are not connected, right?
Yeah.
They have no right to be able to walk or talk or learn language or what have you. But they do. Why? They do it because they see it and they want to do it. Now, we lose that at some point, which is why it talks about having the faith of a child, right? Because the thing is, while you're in Namibia, look, you didn't have to want to go to London.
No.
You could have wanted to do something. I want to be the president of Namibia. I want to do whatever, right?
Exactly.
Dude, it could have been, I just want to be able to feed my family.
Yeah.
Right? But in essence, like, I think the difference between an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur, I'm just saying entrepreneur, many people do it in different aspects in life. It's just that entrepreneur, to wear that tag in any way, you have to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're an entrepreneur. Let's say you're all in entrepreneur. Okay, how are you feeding yourself?
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'm feeding myself by selling something, service or product. Okay, are you selling it? No. Mm-hmm. Okay, so, let's say, are you selling it? Yeah, whiz bang, da. Okay, bro, I don't even have to see your bank balance. right? I could just look at your eyes. I could see your hunger.
Looking
right?
hungry, brother.
You're looking hungry, brother, right? So you can't lie to yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's not working. I think I'm a great manager, and but these guys aren't bro. Whether you're the best manager or not, there are people
Results.
there. There are people there. They seem to be able to do X, Y, and Z. We're not going. Q1, it's not happening. Q2 is not happening,
Yeah.
right? So you are in the cauldron of challenge. We've even spoken about this beforehand. Like entrepreneurship, when you go all in, your weaknesses are just laid bare,
Man,
right?
and they stare and slap you in the face
They stare and slap you in
on
the
a
face.
day-to-day basis. You can't hide, right?
And they say to you this: do you want to grow, or do you not?
Yeah.
And bro, if you don't want to, you don't need to justify it to me. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
If you do want to, you don't need to go from fresh out the womb to walking tomorrow, but you need to orientate your mind and orientate everything towards saying, I want to do that, right? And as you go along, hey, you know what? I can do more than walking, or I can walk, whatever. But you need to get out of where you are now. And my point, and this is why I say this point, I just don't think that it's okay. How does this help work for the common man, etc. Not everyone's an entrepreneur. Not everyone is talking about storytelling. Not everyone's doing things. But the literally, I just think the difference between Einstein and other people, right? Michael Jordan and other people, Kobe Bryant and other people, Alexander the Great. We're going to say this guy a million times before this show's over, and other people, is faith. Simple as that. And then, okay, I've got the faith. I think I can go and, conquer the known world by the age of 32, 33. Okay. Where's your passion? Oh no, I've got passion. Don't you hear me talking? No. Brother, sister, where's your passion? Are you suffering for it? Right?
Okay. Can I just interject there? So let's take it as read that the difference between an outlier, even an outlier version of yourself, is faith, right?
Okay.
Faith in what? Because sometimes you look at all those guys. Okay, maybe Jordan said, for sure, at some point, I have faith that I will be an NBA champion. He may not have said, I'm going to win it 6 times in X number of years, whilst being off playing baseball after my father's died, right?
Yeah.
So maybe the faith he had wasn't necessarily in the championship. It was in something a little bit more close to home.
Yeah.
It was, if I show up every day and operate at this level, it will propel me to where I want to go. The timing is out of my hands, but I'm going to go as hard as I possibly can, knowing that there will be a reward at the end. And I would like that reward to be a championship, right? So what I'm saying is, sometimes I think maybe you assume that it's faith in, let's talk about an athlete, faith in making it to the Olympics. One of our good friends and collaborators is an Olympian, right? Like maybe he said, look, I want to be in the Olympics one day and I have faith I will be. Or maybe he just said, I have faith I can get a second faster. And I have faith I can get 0.1 seconds faster than that. And I have faith that as long as I keep working and evolving, I will continue to get faster. Maybe that's just as valuable, especially for something like entrepreneurship, as faith in an end goal, because sometimes you just got to get from here to the next place. So to throw it back at you, faith is key, but faith in what?
I heard something about Churchill. And in essence, Churchill there was a couple of times, Boer War, wars before World War One, and definitely obviously before World War Two. Crimean and Boer War, the Boer Wars, where he came close to death, and there was also another time when he was captured. And in essence, Churchill had got to a point where his mindset changed. He had a different standard and different level now, where he basically believed that I don't think this thing is fitting. Like I don't think I can die like this, basically, right? I have a bigger story and other things to do, right? So now that's how it manifested, but in essence, he went forward through things and in things, whether he was writing as a journalist and saying, I think my writing's really good, so I should get, if somebody wants to buy it, they should buy it at this price, which is only for the best writers of that day.
$1,500 for 4 months of work.
There we go. He had now, the actions towards a faith, right, had moved into a plane where he had now taken off the reins, the limitations and otherwise, right? And I say that to say, if we look at Jordan, if we look at Last Dance, right, I think that he had been working on a faith, whatever that faith was, right? The ultimate manifestation, the ultimate thing of that was not a championship. That was a symptom. That was that was thinking in. The ultimate manifestation was having a level and a standard that was different to others where, well, why can't I win 6 championships? Why can't I win 10? I mean, at the end of, when he would win a championship, after people celebrating, he won 1 and he's going 2. He won 2 and he's going 3. He's just won it. He's won 5 and he's going 6, right?
Yeah.
He no longer had really any limits. And if we talk about, our guy, so Pumelelo, we're in the process of making a long form narrative feature on him. And we were speaking about the story arc and said, okay, so you're disabled at this part. So when you went to school, because he was actually, even though he, disabled with a club foot, he was beating everyone in able body in terms of sprinter. So did you kind of, see, look, I'm, at primary school, I was able to beat those guys. So now I'm in high school, it's going higher and higher. He's like, bro, the limits were off ages ago. The limits were off ages ago. They said I wasn't going to walk. They said I was just going to stay in the township and die. The limits came off. So, bro, it wasn't about going. There was no ceiling. I was just going.
It's funny. I'm nowhere near as fast as Pumi, and But at one point, as a youngster, I was pretty quick, and I thought maybe I'll go, I'd become a sprinter at some point. This is before, say, 12 years old. I was quick. Won every race I competed in. And then, but I used to just run. My whole thing was just, I'm gonna run as fast as I can. That was my whole goal. Every training session, every race, run as fast as I can. There happened to be other people, I did 100 meters. There happened to be other people lined up. I'm just gonna go as fast as I can and see where I end up. Then I started nearing, I guess, teenage years. And then I started becoming fixated on the medal.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Who's the fastest? It's going to be you, this person, and this person. Andrew won it last year, so he'll probably win it this year, and then you'll come second. So I started becoming, mindset gets fixed. Oh, I'm the person that wins. Now there's a lot of pressure, right?
Yeah.
But also it takes my mind off. It starts to put 100%. Unknowingly put restrictions on me, and it hinders my performance.
100%.
It's almost like then I was running out of fear of losing, right? As opposed to running out of faith.
Yeah, running with freedom.
Running with freedom.
100%.
And so I slowed down. I lost 1 race, so I came 4th, and I quit running, right? And that's kind of just one example, but I think if you look at your life, you could probably see moments where you've exceeded your own expectations of yourself. And chances are maybe you were operating out of fear, deadline, whatever the case may be. But I bet those moments where you've really just outperformed your own expectations of yourself and anything you've done before, it's because you're running free. And I think there's something about faith that comes to that. And it takes off the governor on you, right?
I like that word, yeah.
And so maybe one thing that you could say about operating with faith in whatever you're trying to pursue, whether it's business or something else, is that it gives you another gear, right? It gives you another gear that you can't access without it. and it removes this hidden thing in you that wants to slow you down. It widens the aperture. It helps you see in color. It just gives you another gear. And at the performance level that we're talking about across these disciplines, like that's actually oftentimes that little advantage is the difference, I think, to me, between this result and that result.
So I'd almost say, for me at least, I even think when we talk about gives us another gear, I think even that is, funnily enough, quite limiting.
Sure.
Because
Bad metaphor.
I think literally it gives us that freedom
Yeah.
to explore and say, hey, what's that? Never go, oh, no, it's nothing, don't touch it. Looks interesting. Bro, everyone's what? No. Okay, no, it's fine, it's cool. I'm going to just go and see what it is, right? It gives you the freedom, like Einstein. He asked too many questions. Every time we were doing experiments at school, at university, we'd give him the order. He just didn't follow it. He kept questioning, like, this is the experiment. Follow these steps in an exam. Why do we do that? It then causes him to seem like he's just a contrarian. But he's just asking a question and he wants to look into it. So he didn't get a role as a professor. He didn't get, a post PhD. He didn't get that ability to work in academia. So he went to the patent office and he works by himself. And he brings out special relativity and then general relativity. If he had stayed within the confines, even if he went to 15th gear, he's not going to rewrite classical mechanics, right? He's not going to sit down and think about time. Does that make sense? He allowed his mind to wander, to go and explore anything he wanted, right? And similarly with Alexander the Great, if people said, you can't take on Persia, why not? But you're 23. A great thing is almost, I love this, I heard this, and it was summed up in with Beethoven, with Mozart, because he was a prodigy. Somebody said to Mozart, how do you write a symphony? And he said, you're too young to write a symphony. He said, I'm going to make up this age, but I'm 22 and you wrote when you were 12. I said, yeah, but I didn't ask anybody.
Hard to write a symphony. Yeah.
He just went and did it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's that freedom. I want to write a symphony. Or you know what? I want to explore this thing. I want to explore this piece of music. I want to explore music composition. I'm 12. Fine. Nobody seems to be shouting at me. Let me go and explore it. And as you explore it, this seems to make sense. What if I put something together? And then you write a symphony. Yeah. Right. So it's just I love what you said about governor. Just take the whole thing off. Free body in space. What do you want to explore?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, man, I think something that I've, again, this thing of applying this to these phenomenal characters, right? These historical characters, these world-beating giants. Sometimes you wonder a little bit if, like, are we just taking the lessons that we've been told and the bits of those lessons that fit this narrative, and then just basically picking what we think works for the story, right? Because there was all sorts of other sides and ugliness to those stories, right? Irrespective of the autobiography or the whatever.
Yeah.
That's why I like to always bring it back. I think they look, those are lives just like we all have lives.
100%.
And during their times, very few of them were looked at with such reverence. It was just like, okay, this Einstein guy's a little wonky, but just let him sit in the office. He's got a couple of crazy ideas to see how it goes. But that's why I like to always bring it back to what does this mean if you're just anonymous person, right? Or you're doing your thing, but you're not at that level yet. What lessons are there to be drawn from these guys? And like, are there any examples in your own life that you could share about like how maybe the mustard journey even, like what role has this faith and belief played in the journey of mustard to this point over the last, 10 years?
If I'm honest, like I'm just saying, if I'm honest, I don't really care what it means for an ordinary person, right? I care about what it is. And what it is we can explore and build things, and the proof can always be in the pudding, right? You don't have to stop before you started. If you try, and even if you fail, it's not really a failure. You just have to reframe what you think failure is, right? I think it means don't go into anything half-heartedly. If you don't want to do it, right, just don't do it. Even if it's free, just don't do it. If you want to do it, whether you're being paid £1, some of the things that we put on the website that seem like, oh my gosh, maybe that's of the few things that we've done, maybe that's something that's great. I mean, if I told people like how it came about and what I got paid for it, right? It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. But I didn't do it for the money, right? I mean, between like 2010 when I graduated and I started not mustard but started something to some guys up till not even that long ago, to be honest, man. It's just painful. It was painful, right? If you were to count the total revenue, let's say just between 2010 and 2015, 2016, I mean, it doesn't even look, bro, minimum wage would be relief, right? It would, but it's nowhere near minimum wage, nowhere near minimum wage. And if you're talking about the number of hours that was put in. So, what we're doing at Mustard is not, it's not working with the person who is concerned about the everyday. It's not working with the person or the company, right? That is, because many companies, hey, what are competitors doing? If you care about what your competitors are doing, then, maybe you should care about what your competitors are doing, right? The whole thing I think, that we're trying to do, or what the team's trying to do is, just like we said, story. Faith is a part of story, right? It's a part of a really, there is no fantastic story, whether you want to talk about Harry Potter or, in fiction or in fact, there's no fantastic story that doesn't have somebody who's seen something and has gone on the journey, right? I think we are forgetting that. I think the difficulties of life, which are genuine difficulties, are making us double down on exactly what we see right in front of us. And what we're trying to do is remind people that we are moved by stories, and those stories will move us to some form of action. And we're going to figure out a way to do that and show that in the most potent way possible. And we think that's by making venture brands, and by making long form and feature content. We want to, call in films more so than anything else. So not everything has a clear application to the everyday person, but I think the clear message to the everyday person is we're all people who live by faith. There's not a single person who doesn't live by faith. But the question is, are you limiting yourself to the thing that you've already done and you already know you can do very well? Or are you limiting yourself to the things that you must do because the external governor of life has put that on you, right? Everyone knows you got to pay your rent, you got to pay your mortgage. You figure out a way to do it, right? Everyone knows you got to eat 3 days. You figure out a way to do it. And people might say, yeah, we're in a difficult time. Like, every time is difficult. as you said, we're speaking about historical figures here. We're not just talking about people who are right there. Every single time is difficult, and every single time is difficult for the people who live in that time. So everyone has had a choice to say, which is fine, because we're all free people to make a choice. I'm going to focus on what I have to do today, and we'll walk and move into tomorrow, right? We are focusing on and trying to work with, and therefore for us to work with them, we have to try to be the people who are focusing on, who are removing the governors, and regardless of the pain current, the financial prosperity or lack thereof, we believe there's something. We have faith in something that we see, and we're going to pursue it and see where that ends up.